So this is where the show starts, guys. Again, this is Jimmy Lawson, and what we're here to do is we're here to kind of give you guys a little more information as we've kind of gone throughout time. When we first spoke about this story, there have been some things that have happened in the Julius Jones story, and we kind of want to update you guys, let you know where we are at this point. And also, I wanted to show you guys a couple of videos because, you know, I like to show the videos to kind of let you guys get a full perspective as to these stories that we talk about. So what we have is we have a video of what's the guy's name? Mike. What's
Mike Hunter.
Okay. Mike Hunter is like, look, I'm gonna try to be nice. I'm gonna try to mind my mouth. But Mike Hunter said some things that I thought were a little bit inflammatory with regard to this case. Because like I say, I mean, anybody who has watched The Last Defense, and let me give a shout out to ABC and Viola Davis. If you guys have not seen The Last Defense, the Julius Jones story, what an amazing documentary. I can't thank her and ABC and anybody and everybody who had something to do with that. I can't thank them enough for putting that out there to be able to really, really give a full perspective about this story, because you can't fully understand unless you have kind of followed this story over time, because it's really, really deep. And just the amount of time that we spent on here today is not going to really do it much justice. But I will say this. I can truly, truly thank you as, you know, not only a John Marshall alumni, my brother, you know what I'm saying? You know, I grew up watching you, man. But to really, really signify what real friendship is, can you kind of give the people an idea about the friendship between you and Julius Jones?
Yeah, sure, man. So we again we got to give credit where credit is due with ABC. It was by a miracle, really, man, that Julius Jones' case was chosen by her production company. There was a lot of death row cases across America. Why is that important? Because really, to narrow it down to two cases that ABC really felt comfortable about the person being truly innocent, that's important. So again, thank you for Viola Davis, all the production ABC, for doing something like that. Because before I get into who me and Julius was, he spent 10 to 15 years not being able to tell his story, not having the public understand his side of this miscarriage of justice. So, you know, he was in a dark place, man, really personally, because nobody wanted to hear his story. Appeals were getting shot down left and right. So when ABC approached us about doing this show on a story, that gave Julius like that jumper cable, a bolt of energy of, okay, here we go, man. This is my chance to tell my story. So me and Julius go way back, man. Oklahoma City, north side of Oklahoma City. We been rocking, man, since fifth, sixth grade. Played basketball together. My father was our basketball coach, man. My dad and himself was really close as well, so that was cool. Plus we stayed 4 houses down from each other, same neighborhood. That was cool too. So we worked our way through middle school and high school together. One thing that a lot of people didn't know before the show hit for Julius, that how smart and intelligent Julius was, you know, coming out, man. He had a 3.9 GPA. What was special about that? At that particular time, back in the 90s, you know, you didn't have a lot of student athletes who were both super good athletically and smart. So, you know, Julius and myself were the first two African-American males to ever graduate in the top 10% of the class of John Marshall, of any class, right? Of any class. So when we came out, man, we were trying to change the game, if you will, man, from a society standpoint, African-American male standpoint, and just all across the board, man. So that's kind of how me and Julius met. We kind of branched off at college. He went to the University of Oklahoma on a full academic scholarship. Again, let me paint this picture, man.
Yes.
Back in the 90s, you know, the only black students at OU campus was football and basketball players, right? So to get a guy to come in as an engineering major on a full academic scholarship, that was like Barack Obama. Right. Real stuff. That was like Barack Obama of his time, man. So I went to Grambling State University to play basketball, man. So we kind of split up for a little while, and then you know, reconnected, man, around the summer of 1999.
Yeah. Oh, that faithful summer, man. So first and foremost, I want people to understand that getting into OU is a big enough deal as it is for people who might not know. My mother and dad graduated from OU, so shout out Boomer Sooner. but you had to have at least a 24 ACT just to be able to get into OU, just to even make the baseline entrance into OU, just to get qualified. So the fact that, and I could even speak on that behalf, because my grades weren't the greatest grades in the world. I ended up with a 3.4, which was, I could have did better, but nonetheless, for our culture and where we grew up in, it wasn't a high priority focus for a lot of kids, especially like for those who played sports. Like a lot of people kind of just skated through. So the fact that you had somebody who had the wherewithal, the upbringing, the grades to be able to show that he did care about his academics, I think speaks very high of his character.
Yeah, one of the unique things about Julius and myself, we were like, let me backtrack. So the demographics for the normal kid from Northside Oklahoma City was a single family home or raised with a grandma and grandpa. Very rarely did you have kids who had both the mom and dad in the household. So me and Julius was blessed to have that. We both had our moms and dads in the household. But on top of that, we both had fathers who were visionaries, man, that were impactful about how education could put us in a position to be successful in our lives. That was the difference. So we bought into that mantra and we challenged each other, me and Julius, man. So, we were taking pre-AP classes and stuff like that. So it was a kind of a unique deal because we were always not the only two blacks, but we were always the only ones that were athletes in these upper type classes. So we were with the nerds, quote unquote. So that was pretty cool, man. But at the same token, we also understood that this could be a moment to help change the dynamic, for future generations coming behind us.
Right. Absolutely. So we go from this to this summertime, because he was supposed to be going back to OU, right? Because you have your little summer break or whatever the case is, right? So far, so good?
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
So, one of the things, because even I can attest to this, is like when you come home on summer break from college or whatever, you tend to reconnect with friends and stuff like that, or people or whatever the case is. And this is kind of really where this story took just the worst turn it could possibly take. And Julius ends up in a situation where a number of people are pointing the finger at him for something that he actually did not do, which is how we are where we are now. But what I want to do is get people to understand, like I say, it's not hard to really to look up the story and kind of follow it a little bit. But what I want to do is I want to show a video, if you don't mind, of the Oklahoma Attorney General, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's his correct title. God, you just told me his name, Mike
Hunter.
Mike Hunter had some things to say about this case, because what we're looking to do right now is we're looking to continue our advocacy to get him out of jail, to get him off of this death sentence, and to commute his clemency. Did I say that correctly?
That's correct.
So you also have a collective of people, I'll say, that are pushing in the opposite direction. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to illustrate both sides. I'm going to try to show a little bit of this video, if you don't mind. I think we already spoke about this. I'm going to show this for a moment. But let me give the fair usage before I use this so nobody flags this video. And then I'll go ahead and let you guys hear what Mike Hunter had to say about this case, which is polar opposite of our perspective. So let me go ahead and give the fair use. Federal law allows citizens to reproduce, distribute, or exhibit portions of copyrighted motion pictures, videotapes, or video discs under certain circumstances without the authorization of the copyright holder. This is called fair use. It is allowed for purposes of criticism, news reporting, teaching, and parody, which doesn't infringe of copyright under 17 U.S.C. 107. All right, I'm going to re-add your picture on here so that way I don't have you completely cover it up here. So, there we go. All right, let's take a listen at this video. Uh-oh, that's not the video. Hold on. There we go. Federal law allows citizens... That is not the video. There's the video. Okay, here we go. Sorry about that. A little technical difficulty. And again, if you guys are listening, we are live right now. Please click that thumbs up. Please help share this stream. If you would, please click that thumbs up. Thank you. Here we go.
It was important to bring you together to remind the public of some of the key facts in the Julius Jones case that I believe are being manipulated to fit a narrative in a orchestrated effort to get Mr. Jones off of death row and perhaps out of prison entirely. And we've heard a lot recently from those who are advocating for his release. I'm here today as an advocate for the late Paul Howell and his family, and I'm here to advocate for the justice that our legal system owes them. They are the victims in this case, make no mistake about it, and the pain of their loss is revisited with each misguided public appeal on Mr. Jones' behalf. There are a lot of facts, and I won't cover all of them for you. Most of them should be in the packet that you've been provided. But let's deal with the first and most important fact. Julius Jones murdered Paul Howell in cold blood in front of his sister and daughters. No celebrity imploration or profusion of misinformation will change that. The information that we're releasing today is from the trial transcript, and it disproves every claim that he is innocent. I strongly encourage those calling for his commutation to read the compelling evidence in this document. Julius Jones had his day in court numerous times. I'll begin with reminding everyone the story around the infamous red bandana. His attorneys complained was never tested. It was tested in 2018. The conclusive results of the DNA profile show the probability of the DNA belonging to someone other than Jones is 1 in 110 million. Moreover, this bandana was tested for his accomplice, Chris Jordan's DNA. Chris Jordan's DNA was not found on that bandana. During the investigation, officers found the murder weapon wrapped in that red bandana and hidden in the attic space above the ceiling of the closet of Jones' room. And hidden behind the cover of the doorbell chime in his parents' home, officers discovered a loaded .25 caliber magazine belonging to the gun that they found. Both the bullet that killed Mr. Howell and a bullet recovered from Mr. Howell's Suburban were fired by the gun found in the attic. Something else that the public needs to take note of. Subsequent to Mr. Howell's murder, Jones pled guilty to robbery with a firearm and unlawful possession of a firearm. This offense arose out of the armed carjacking of a vehicle outside a Hideaway restaurant the week before Howell's murder. The stolen vehicle was recovered from a Norman apartment complex where Jones lived. After Jones and his friend were arrested for Howell's murder, the key to the stolen Mercedes was found in the cutlass shared by Jones and his accomplice. In other brushes with the law, Jones attempted to elude a police officer, was arrested while driving another stolen car in which he had a loaded gun. He robbed a jewelry store at gunpoint, committed another carjacking at the same hideaway during the same week, and fought with a detention officer. Alleged juror bias. The racial bias claim by a juror was thoroughly explored and investigated. Previously, during the trial, A juror reported that she heard a provocative comment, not a racial comment, but a provocative comment by a juror. The trial court thoroughly investigated this allegation, interviewed each of the other jurors, none of whom heard the remark. Moreover, the juror indicated that they had only heard part of the remark, and that juror was not even sure that there was a reference made to Julius Jones.
And I'm going to stop this real quick and let you guys know we're just taking mental notes right now of everything that's being said. I'm not going to go crazy right now, but there's a lot of stuff being said that we're going to rebuttal here momentarily. So don't mistake that. But it's only a few more minutes left of this. But like I say, we want to hear one side and then we'll go to the other side. Is that okay with you, brother Jimmy?
That's fine.
Okay. All right. Let's keep going.
And at that time, the reporting juror said nothing to the trial judge to indicate that the juror also used a racial epithet. The Oklahoma Court of Criminal Appeals determined that it is highly improbable that the reporting juror failed to make the current racial bias claim clear to the judge at the time it allegedly happened. Alibi. Jones affirmatively claims that he was at his parents' home at the time Mr. Howell was murdered. A hearing was held on this claim in state court, at which his attorney testified that he discussed the alibi with Jones more than once. And Jones said that he was not at home that evening, that his parents were mistaken. I'll quote from the transcript. Question: Mr. Jones, Julius Jones, denied to you that he was home the evening of the homicide. Answer: sworn testimony. Yes, ma'am. Another of Jones' attorneys, Malcolm Savage, also confirmed that Jones denied being at his parents' home the night of the murder. In addition to Jones' denials, Jones' family claimed another party was with them the night of the murder and could corroborate the alibi. That witness denied that she was at Jones' home on the night of the murder. Megan Tobey's description. Megan Tobey is Paul Howell's sister, who was in the vehicle at the time of the incident. It is widely described that Mr. Howell's sister, who was a witness to the murder, described the gunman as looking more like Jones' accomplice the night of the murder. Advocates for Jones say in her description that she saw braids or cornrows. But, according to the trial transcript, she said she did not see braids or cornrows. She said she could see about a half an inch to an inch of the man's hair between his stocking cap and his ear. These are just a handful of the misleading statements advocates for Julius Jones are perpetuating. As I said, we have more in the handout we've provided, and we can get the correct information for anyone who needs it going forward. Julius Jones is guilty. He murdered Paul Howell, and he needs to be held accountable. Mr. Howell's family will never have closure. His two daughters, now grown, had to grow up without their dad. The family was ripped apart by this senseless murder. In my meeting with the family last week, they all described Paul as the golden boy in the family. He was clearly his father's favorite, but none of his brothers or his sister ever took umbrage at that. They also advised that losing Paul also killed Paul's father. He was never the same. So, Julius Jones has been convicted, and no PR campaign can change these facts or refute this evidence. The last thing I will address is last week I sent a letter in response to an inquiry from the Pardon and Parole Board questioning whether or not death row inmates are eligible for commutation. My letter to the board referenced a 2012 Attorney General's opinion that established that the board has constitutional authority to recommend and that the governor has constitutional authority to grant commutations to death row inmates. This office will always follow the law, despite rhetoric to the contrary. Rhetoric last week by Mr. Jones' lawyer, who said this office would not follow the law, alleging we would be a biased actor and engage in a flimsy legal cover. Both of those are quotes. I know my responsibilities as Attorney General, and I am faithful to them. It was clear in the 2012 opinion, and it was clear in our review of that opinion, that the governor and the Pardon and Parole Board have this authority, and that Mr. Jones has a constitutional right to be reviewed for commutation. That's the law.
Volume.
I would ask that Julius Jones advocates, as I try to be,
Can you still hear it?
are responsible.
Can you still hear it, bro? you can still hear the volume. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Jimmy?
No, let me get out and get right back in. Can I do that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So just got a little bit of a volume issue. It's okay. And if you guys are here, do me a favor and click that thumbs up, share the stream, and let other people know that we are live right now. So I'm gonna try to fix this audio. So I caught that because I know you said volume. Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah, we're back. We're back in.
Okay, good deal. So like I say, I mean, your video stream is good. So like I said, if we have to have you pop out and pop in from time to time, that works really good too. I'm gonna back this up just a hair. I don't want to back it up too far. All right, let's keep going real quick.
Alleging we would be a biased actor and engage in a flimsy legal cover. Both of those are quotes. I know my responsibilities as Attorney General, and I am faithful to them. It was clear in the 2012 opinion, and it was clear in our review of that opinion, that the governor and the Pardon and Parole Board have this authority, and that Mr. Jones has a constitutional right to be reviewed for commutation. That's the law. I would ask that Julius Jones advocates, as I try to be, are responsible to the public with respect to their efforts on his behalf.
I still believe in Mr. Jones' innocence, and I'm speaking from probably a different aspect as many than other people, because I am a family member, I am a daughter of someone who was murdered, and also someone, those that were held accountable were also given the death penalty. And that death penalty was literally commuted to life without parole. And so while as some of my family did not have an issue with the death penalty, I myself don't feel like the death penalty is something as a sentence that should remain. I think it should be abolished. So I'm hoping that, the families, so I certainly understand what the family of Mr. Houck is going through. I've dealt with that, and I know every situation is different. I know the angst and the pain of such great loss in such a tragic manner. But I always wanted the correct people to be charged and their sentence to be appropriate. But I personally do not agree with the death penalty.
What is it to you that still stands out about this case you think they might have gotten wrong?
You know, I don't know. I think now, really, it seems like we're beginning to argue semantics. And this is someone who's also having to deal with the emotional pull, because it's very triggering when you are also a family member of a victim, which means you're a victim yourself of a crime, especially that has taken your loved one. But some of the instances that I have paused with, if them not addressing certain issues. We heard about the judge or the person who's associated with the Pardon and Parole Board making inappropriate statements, seeming like that was intimidation. That was not addressed today. understanding that there were some inconsistencies even at the trial that haven't really been highlighted. And so those are my personal concerns, and I think the concerns of the general public as well, those that are advocating for justice for Julius, as well as just wanting the judicial process to remain a system of justice, which a lot of times it seems like it's a system of injustice that we're presented with.
I know you weren't surprised, but did you hope that given all the recent attention from celebrities, athletes, that they would lean in a little bit of a different direction?
Of course we did. And I am hoping that the family will still continue to push for justice on behalf of Mr. Jones. I know that I am committed to continuing to do that. I am very appreciative, as well as I know the family has expressed their appreciation for the nationwide and the international support that they've received. So I'm just saying that we're going to continue to pursue it.
Still stay on the list of demands from Black Lives Matter OKC?
It will certainly still stay on that list of demands.
All right, let's go ahead and swap this back over so that way you can see me. There we go. Boom. All right, brother, there is so much to unpack here. Okay, so let me go ahead and bring you back on the screen. Uh-oh, wrong one. Let me see video. Boom, there we go. Wherever you like to start. I got so much to say. Wherever you want to start. Let's talk about Mr. Mike Hunter here. What would you like to say about his well thought out statement?
His unbelievable presentation that he gave. Hey, let me first and foremost, man, start right here, because we as advocates, we as family friends, and concerned individuals about justice, I've got to start here because I want to paint this picture about what this system looks like. So normally your state attorney general never really picks a side when it comes to the commutation and or clemency. An elected official's position is to be what we call equitable, whether you're on this side or this side of the fence. So you're not
supposed to be biased.
There you go. So it was very alarming that right off the bat, he told us exactly what his presentation was going to be, right? So right off the back, he says, I'm here to represent the Howell family. Well, I'm like, oh, so normally that is not the case. So the first 5 seconds of the presentation, I knew right off the bat, oh, here we go. Here we go. Let's buckle the seatbelt. Let's see what this guy has to say. So let me approach number 2. So that's number 1. Number 2 is that some of the allegations that he tried to build about Julius's character was 100% false. I'm gonna say it again for the viewers. It was 100% false. Julius Jones has never been tried or convicted for robbing jewelry stores, having a loaded weapon at a pizza parlor, the vehicle in Norman, or the keys to the stolen vehicle found in a cup. All of that description is 100% false. Again, here we talk about the political battle that we're in. Why would an elected official make such standpoint? Here we go. Because Oklahoma, in instance, in the nationwide, has had a very challenging track record of admitting when they're wrong. And when you don't have the ability to admit when you're wrong, your only recourse is to start making some stuff up, right? Because you don't really want to admit this, says, oh, we made a mistake. We need to right this wrong. So from their standpoint, in the Attorney General standpoint, they're going to try to do anything they can to help taint the picture of the mistake that they made. So that's number 2. Number 3, some of the allegations for juries, description of the shooter that we put into appeals, never was heard in the court. That was false of what he said, that we had our time in court for these particular items to be heard. That is not the case. These particular items were never approved to have a hearing to be heard. That's the part that he left out. They never gave Julius Jones and our attorney staff the opportunity to present those items. They simply just said, no, we're not going to hear them, for whatever the case may be.
Right.
Unfortunately, the Court of Criminal Appeals has the power to do that. And that's another tricky issue that we'll get to a little later. But number 4, here is the thing that just blew my mind. And I saw your arms go up when the guy said it. He says, now the description of the shooter said he had an inch of hair, hanging out of his stocking cap, which did not match Julius Jones. Oh, Mr. Attorney General.
Please tell them about that part, because he tried to skip past that, and I'm just like, I want to grab and choke my laptop. You can't skip past a fact, and you cannot skip past what somebody's words were. What were her specific words about what she saw?
So the sister to the gentleman who got killed, Mrs. Toby, specifically said the shooter had an inch and a half of braided hair coming out of the stocking cap. So the beauty behind it is that 8 days before trial, Julius took a booking photo, which had hair like mine, if y'all can see that, right? So a bald fade, had no hair. Christopher Jordan, the co-defendant, had exactly what that matched. He had an inch and a half braided hair coming out of the stocking cap. So here is the ambiance that the Attorney General didn't mention. Well, at the trial, the defense never presented that information to the jury. They never stood up and says, here's Julius's picture, here's West Side's picture. Who did she describe as the shooter? So that within itself, right, that within itself would have took the whole case to a whole different level. So the Attorney General
and West Side is Chris.
So Christopher Jordan's street name is West Side. When I mention West Side, that's who that is. He's the co-defendant. Another key notable is that we didn't have representation. We had a public defender, which this particular gentleman that y'all saw in the last defense, that was his first capital murder case. The lady who also was the assistant, she was straight out of law school. And then here's the most important piece of the pie to me. So 2 days worth of court proceedings by Bob Macy, the district attorney at the time, presented his facts of why Julius Jones was guilty. And then the third day was allotted for our defense to provide our presentation of why Julius Jones is innocent. And when it came for our time to stand up and present, our defense says, we rest. What? We rest, right? He didn't even get up and give any description, any evidence, no witnesses, didn't call Julius, didn't call me, didn't call the family, nobody.
And he did not testify. See, so even though my memory is not that great, because, I'm over here dealing with some early amnesia, but nonetheless, I do remember that. And here's the crazy part. If you are fighting for your life, why would somebody ask you not to speak? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, if I'm going to take the fall for something, I'm going to give my account of it. Like, it's just naturally, like people should understand how glaring that is, that you didn't say anything in your defense at all.
We were totally blown away. If you have ever been in an environment where you see a balloon that's blown up, you blow a balloon up and you let it go without tying it up and let the air out, and it has that sensation. We felt that in the court, like, hold on. So you're just going to sit there and say nothing and don't call anybody? And on top of that, you're not going to call the man who they're saying that he's guilty, that he has a chance to say why he's innocent, Julius Jones himself? We were flabbergasted at the system. That was my first time in my adulthood that I saw something wrong in our system. And then on top of that, I saw a system that was going to try to convict a man by any means necessary.
Yeah, and we could even go through the history and a little bit. Let's talk about Bob Macy, because I never remember his name, but I know his face. His face is one of those unforgettable faces. I'm going to tell you guys this for people who might not be familiar with the history of Oklahoma. It's considered to be the melting pot and all of that good stuff, but Oklahoma has a little bit of a dark history when it comes to racial things, right? And so Edmond was known as this place called the Sundown Town. And for some people who might not be familiar with that, but I used to live on the north side, like right on the dividing line where Edmond and Oklahoma City starts and ends. And I knew even growing up that there were, like, at certain points, and matter of fact, I could even tell you this. My second job was, I used to have to work at the Taco Mayo that was right there off of 33rd Street, I believe.
Yeah.
And I remember my dad telling me, don't be hanging out there after you get off of work. When you get off of work, you come straight back home. And I used to be like, well, what's the big deal? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I know a few people out here and stuff like that. Sundown Town is a place where after the sun goes down in Edmond, Oklahoma, they don't want to see nobody with our color skin out and about. You want to kind of do you want to elaborate about that, or am I just making some stuff up?
Yeah, absolutely. You're 100% correct, man. The demographics of Edmond back in the time in the 90s when this case took place was around 90% white and 10% black. Probably not even 10% black. I'm probably giving too much credit. Probably 5% black at the time, 5% Hispanic. So sundown means that when that sun goes down, hey, African Americans don't be caught in Edmond for whatever reason. So they'll pull you over for no reason, check what you're going out. Me and Julius, we used to, do our partying thing and all that good stuff. So we got stopped multiple times in Edmond in my truck for no apparent reason. He'll pull us over, talk to us, license, registration, check it out, go on about a business. But he would do it consistently, or these officers would do it consistently. I wasn't the only African American that had that particular experience with Edmond police in that area. So you're right, man. So the demographics is different now. So, it's weird when I talk to Julius about, what Edmond looks like now compared to what 21 years ago. It's changed. It's more diverse now, of course, but that was one of the dynamics that Bob Macy was playing upon. Oh, you have a white guy in Edmond killed by a black gentleman. And in my jurisdiction, that just doesn't happen, right? So that was his mantra. And on top of that, let me give the stats to the people because this is important.
Yes.
So he had 54 death row convictions during his tenure in the 90s, and 28 of the 54 up until today has been overturned. The convictions have been overturned.
Can you say that a little bit slower? Can you maybe even break that down into layman's terms for the new people out there that might not understand the gravity of what you just said?
Yeah, so he convicted 54 people that he thought it was guilty, and then after review of their case, 28 of them were found to be innocent. Right, that shows a high percentage of non-integrity, prosecutorial misconduct, and then all the stuff that goes into what you're not supposed to do when you represent the law. So he was representing everything against the law to get convictions. And that's not the way our system was designed to be set up. It was to have somebody that was maybe of a particular crime to prove without a reasonable doubt, that particular person is guilty. So Bob Macy was just convicting people left and right. You're probably thinking like, wow, 54, how does that happen? Right? That is the system, right? You've got a lot of different people connected within the prosecutorial community that was pushing this agenda of Bob Macy.
So let me say this, because you said the number was 28 that were overturned, right? Out of 54. So what you're telling me is if all lives matter and these people love these mantras and all of this stuff, if every single person's life matters, then how is it that we can overlook 54 lives that were affected in similar fashions like this? 54 lives in 28, not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7, but 28 human people who had thoughts, who had feelings, who had family, who had friends, who had been to school, who had things they wanted to do in life, and their lives were cut short on behalf of a mistake, on behalf of wrongful convictions that caused these people's lives to be over permanently. Is that the gravity of what we're looking at?
What's even more scary about that is when we compound that amongst all the cities. That's just Oklahoma City. When you add in all the cities across the nation, think about how many thousands of people's lives that have been disrupted by this judicial system of this cat and mouse game of we're just going to convict and convict, and if y'all can figure it out later, then kudos to you, but we're not going to do it. So think about the thousands of lives, and unfortunately, a large percentage of those lives are African American. particularly in Oklahoma County, around 60% of all cases are black, right? Which is crazy for those who don't know Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City is only 14% black.
Mm-hmm.
And you're saying that 60% of our cases are black cases? So that mantra of social justice, criminal justice reform, it goes all across the board, man, all across America.
Yeah. Okay. So, like I said, I don't want to go too much in on Bob Macy, even though I really want to. I just don't want to spend too much time there.
Right.
So, but just to really get people to understand that it seems to be a very particular motivation in order to not only get a conviction, which also helps people who are on the prosecution side, because they do depend on those quote unquote numbers to make sure that they are rated really high, have those high conviction rates and things like that. And I gotta say, whenever you have something that is motivated by a number, whether it be financial, whether it be a percentage that makes you look better, as opposed to actually just a right and wrong thing, then I believe that there are going to be certain perversions of people's choices and decisions, in my personal opinion. I just think that when you have those persuasions at your feet, I just think that a lot of people might kowtow to that, especially if they don't have their heart in the right place. But let's go ahead and move on from that point. So they also was talking about how not only the hair, because that's a huge thing, because that also shows that she was describing a different individual and not Julius, not our brother Julius. Okay, so then this whole thing of where am I trying to go with this? With his defense, this was their first, this was their first case, right? That you were saying, what I call public pretenders, which is the reason I started calling them public pretenders. And I actually had some public defenders email me, and they were pretty pissed off about me saying that from other states. They're like, hey, we work hard and this and that. I'm not saying that y'all don't work hard. I'm not saying that you guys aren't doing the best with what you have. But what I am saying is that when we're talking about people's life and death decisions, these type of things really have to be represented properly. And if they're represented improperly, then you just cost somebody their life really for no reason, just because you lack knowledge, you lack skill, or you lack intestinal fortitude, whatever it is. But like I said, I mean, the fact that this case actually caused me to start calling them public pretenders, because I believe that people need private counsel. And I think that's another very, very important thing.
The one detail a lot of people don't know about Julius's case is that we had a phenomenal attorney. We had a phenomenal counsel. 2 months before trial starts, he has a heart attack and dies. So this particular gentleman.
Hold on. I did not know that. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. I did not know that. Can you say that again?
Yeah. So this guy, Mr. Albert, was probably either one of the top two capital punishment attorneys in Oklahoma. Was a phenomenal track record, man. We were very comfortable with the idea of his presentation and what he was going to provide. So we were ready to rock and roll. So 2 months before trial starts, he has a heart attack and dies. So now we're in the position of, what do we do now? We spend all this money on counsel. He's gone away. And who do we get? So the state of Oklahoma side was rushing now. They knew that he passed away. So they were like, oh, instead of having a trial 8 months from now, let's have it next month. So that's what they did. They sped up the time, set a date. Now we were forced to get a public defender. And then voila, the public defender we get was his first capital punishment case. And then the second counsel on that, she was straight out of law school. Now let me give some credit to co-counsel, Ms. Robin Bruno. She's been absolutely phenomenal. She's still practicing law, very successful. If we had someone like her now, back then, right, it'd be a total different ball game. But it's nothing to her. I mean, she's straight out of law school. She didn't choose the case. They kind of gave it to her. Plus, she being co-counsel, she didn't have a lot of authoritative power to navigate through the case. Of course, that goes with the first person that's on the case, which was David McKenzie. So he didn't have a lot of experience at all, being the first case he had. So we were as we say, we had our hands tied. So, that's kind of what happened on that ordeal.
I did not. Wow, you just told me something I didn't even know. And matter of fact, I'm not even sure that was even in the documentary or not. But I think that's because that piece of information, I know they couldn't put every single detail in there, but to me that's a huge detail to me, because like I said, because I always wondered, I'm like, damn, well, like, why, what happened to, I guess it costs money. And I know everybody ain't got no tens of thousands for no freaking attorney. I know that's a reality for the majority of Americans. But that was always something I always wondered. I'm just being honest with you. In the back of my mind, I was like, why didn't they go for private counsel? You know what I mean? But they did. The family did. Wow.
Yep.
Is there anything more you want to say about what Mike, the Attorney General, said in that video? Because like I said, I felt like a lot of what he said, when you're talking about, you're here to represent the family, and then when he also said that, what did he say? He said the people who are out there advocating for justice and stuff like that. I'm just kind of like, look, we're not trying to tell you how to advocate for Paul Howell and his family. Like, why would he try to tell us how we're going to advocate for our brother, Julius Jones? I thought that was a bit weird.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. I always tell people, and plus your viewers too, man, that, me and the Paul Howell family and the Jones family, we're all on the same team. And why do I say that? Because we want justice, and we got to give the Howell family justice, because Julius Jones is not the right person. Mm-hmm. So why don't we just knock both that at the same time and give the Howell family the proper justice too, by giving the right person who did the crime, and then bringing home Julius to us. So it's a win-win.
Right. I agree with you. Let me go ahead and do this. There was an advocacy video on behalf, and like I said, I got to shout those people out again. I can't shout out everybody, but ABC, Viola Davis, my memory's bad, but I did start to remember her name, who helped kind of facilitate putting the Justice for Julius Jones, the documentary, The Last Defense, which was amazing. If you guys have not seen that, I hope that you guys.
They can still go to the website justiceforjulius.com. That's FOR, so that's justiceforjulius.com. Click on Watch the Doc, and you can watch it there as well.
Thank you, because I didn't know, because I just thought that once they showed it, like, okay, I didn't know if you had access to it again. So now we know that. So also want to thank people like Kim Kardashian. I want to thank also people like Common. Also want to thank people like the NBA players like Blake Griffin, Trae Young, Russell Westbrook. I can't name everybody. I want to thank the Jones family as well. Do you mind if I show that video real quick of just a number of different people speaking about
Sure.
justice for Julius, if you don't mind?
Yeah.
Okay, give me just a moment here. I'm going to bring that video back up. We've already done the fair use, so I don't have to repeat that again. Give me a moment. And if you guys are watching us live, again, if I can remind you guys, please click that thumbs up and share this stream. And then we're gonna let my brother Jimmy Lawson give his final thoughts about this right after this video. So here we go.
An innocent man can be executed by the state of Oklahoma.
But we have the power to save him.
Remember the name Julius Jones.
The only mistake that Julius ever made happened to be hanging around some different people at the incorrect time. That's it.
Scott Howell was killed in his parents' driveway.
Neighbors and police expressed shock.
It's a nice, quiet, friendly neighborhood.
Julius was getting ready to go back, and it just seemed like everything was falling in place. I just can't explain it. It's kind of like you're happy, everything's going well, and then this happened, and it seems like a dream or a nightmare, and you can't wake up because it's reality.
Our neighborhood at the time was more Caucasian than blacks. When they tell me they're looking for somebody on my block, I'm thinking it's a white person. So when the county sheriff told me, we're looking for Mr. Jones, I'm like, Julius Jones? He's like, yes, sir. I'm like, no way. No way. No way you're looking for my best friend for capital murder? No way. He was innocent. He knew he was innocent, but nobody was willing to hear his real story.
We know my son don't have any malice in his heart to do anything like that. And God is good, so we know God's going to take care of this.
I don't think a lot of people understand when defendants don't have resources, there are appointed attorneys who is probably overworked, and in my case, and didn't know what they were, really doing, and they were overwhelmed. I believe that the district attorney of Oklahoma was in, such a rush to convict me because they wanted to prove they were tough on crime. I don't think it mattered to them whether there were questions or not, just that they could get a conviction.
Remember this name, Julius Jones.
Julius has been on death row in Oklahoma for over 20 years, despite overwhelming evidence that he's innocent.
We have the power to save Julius.
We're calling on Governor Kevin Stitt
and Oklahoma's Pardon and Parole Board
to show mercy and correct this injustice
by commuting Julius's death sentence.
Remember Rodney Reed?
He was just days away from being executed when the court suspended his death sentence under pressure from the public.
Rodney was an innocent man and would have been executed if you hadn't stepped in.
Now we have a chance to do it again with Julius Jones.
For the whole community, we were so distraught about the system letting down Julius Jones.
It's not just really all about Julius, but it's about our society and the things that need to be changed.
I could clearly see how unbalanced our system has been and how unfairly it's treating me. And there are others who are dealing with the same thing. At the same time, I know I can't lose focus and I can't lose hope.
All right, let me go ahead and swap this out real quick. See if I don't mess this up. Perfect transition. Okay, so let me bring you back here so you can see me. Boom. Okay, there's a few things that I want to close out with this. First and foremost, like, what would you like to say as far as like that particular video that they put together right there? I thought it was nice, short, and sweet. What an awesome contribution from all of those people. Like, what would you like to say to them?
Man, again, man, we are highly thankful and blessed to have such notable national voices jump on board, and not only in support of justice, but in support of Julius Jones' innocence. So this national push, we've got over 6 million signatures on our petition, which is on our website too, everybody. So go to the website justiceforjulius.com and go ahead and sign that petition too. So we want to get as many signatures as possible, because that will go to the Governor Stitt's office and our Oklahoma Pardon and Parole Board. So those national voices makes the difference, Just Jay, because when they know that people outside of Oklahoma is paying attention, is going to put more public opinion pressure, on the system in the process. So that's important because we are at the last of the Mohicans, as we say, the last step in the game, the last chance to save Julius's life, which is through the clemency process. So we filed a clemency petition in October of 2019 with the Pardon and Parole Board of Oklahoma. Kind of how it works is a two-step process. First, they have to hear the case. They have to vote yes that they want to proceed with the second stage of the case. So where we are currently is that we haven't even gone through step one yet because of what's going on with the board and the board member causing some conflictions and some drama. They have pushed back their ability to hear death penalty clemencies. That's important for Julius because that fits his mode. So long story short, we're waiting on the OPPB to hear his clemency petition. Our hopes is that hopefully within the next 2 to 3 months, they will put that particular petition on their docket to hear it. And then we can proceed with this thing and bring Julius home.
Okay. So that actually answered my first question for you. That was well said. Perfect. Actually, I think that answered my second question where I said, what are the next steps? So pretty good. Okay. So at this point, for the few people that we have here, we'll have some more people that are watching on the replay. So like I said, I'll continue to share it and hopefully bring some more attention to this. Us as a community, us as viewers, how can we help with regard to whether it be letters, petitions, phone calls? What would you ask us to do that are watching this video?
So 2 things. First thing is go to the website that we mentioned, justiceforjulius.com. We have some pre-drafted letters, what we call our e-letters. And you'll see what I'm saying when you go. You plug in your information, it does it for you. And those letters go straight to the Oklahoma Pardon and Parole Board and Governor Stitt's office. That's important. And then number 2, go ahead and share. You can go ahead and share the documentary to your friends and family that may not be aware of this particular case or whatever the case may be. Share it with them. And then item number 3 is my platform, which is pushing our community and people that look like you and I, and they don't have to be African Americans, it can be of any type of minority descent, Asians, Hispanics, Asian Pacific, whatever your minority nationality is. We have to preach this next wave of leadership. The only way you and I, Just Jay, can see real change in our system is that we have to put people that look like you and I in leadership roles. So how do we do so? We start with the local level of getting some of the community people to say, you know what, I want to run for my local election. I want to run for city council. I want to run for mayor. I want to run for county sheriff. I want to run for governor. I want to run for these leadership positions that can help put a voice at the table that will help the table understand, what the real dynamic and what the real impact of what their decisions are doing to the community. Because what we have now is we have leadership that does not look like us, so they're not concerned about the impact their decisions makes for our community. So the only way we can change that, Just Jay, is that we got to dive in and plunge in, man, and take a chance to see if we get some of these leadership positions.
Okay, so you actually kind of explained also like how the clemency process works, which is actually pretty dope that you were able to explain that, because even I didn't know that. Ultimately, like, once that clemency process starts, like does it go like into the hands of Kevin Stitt himself, or like what is like where is his position in that particular process?
So once it passes the first phase of them saying, yes, we want to hear the case, it goes to phase 2, which is a more in-depth presentation of why Julius is innocent, which is presented by himself, Julius, and the attorneys. If they vote to say, ooh, we like that, let's send it to Governor Stitt. So the last step is Governor Stitt has the ability to look at it and say, you know what? I agree. I'm going to vote yes, and I'm going to let him out. Okay. Or he could say, well, I'm not quite sure. I don't like it. He could vote no. He could shoot it down and say, well, no commutation, no release. So unfortunately and fortunately, it rests with one person, whether how you look at that. I like to look at it from a positive standpoint that he put this board in place to make a decision and a recommendation, which goes to him. So more times than not, I feel like as a leader, if I have a board I set up and they give me a representation or a recommendation, more times than not, I'm probably going to, side with that recommendation because that's kind of how these quasi firms are kind of put together. So we're hopeful. We're hopeful that we can get past the first 2 phases and it hits Governor Stitt's office, that he'll follow suit and let Julius come on home.
I love it, man. Let me ask you this, because I know that we're up against the clock. How much time do we have in this process?
So the positive is that the state of Oklahoma has not started the process of setting execution dates for eligible death row inmates. Why is that important? Because of Julius's longevity of his sentence. He is eligible as one of the first people that could get a potential date once they decide to start setting dates. So the good thing is that they're not setting dates currently. So we got a little time, but you and I know, man, time is of the essence. So we got to get this done now.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So my last point, which was a glaring argument, because even Julius said it in the little bit of the interview that we got to hear from him personally, he was saying that that Bob Macy was trying to prove that he's tough on crime. But here's my point. How can you prove that you're tough on crime if you convict the wrong person and sentence them to death? How can that prove that you're tough on crime if you're getting the wrong people sentenced to death?
That's that systematic breakdown that we were talking about earlier of these position holders. You're not taking the law in an equitable standpoint. When I use the word integrity, integrity covers all of that umbrella of we're going to abide by the law, and then we're going to make sure that the right people are the right people when we talk about having convictions. So I would say that, back in that era, that umbrella of integrity wasn't a concern. It was just, like you said, I want to run for office. I want to get as many convictions as possible. And if we can happen to get the wrong guy, oh, well, it's just another number for us. That's kind of how they treated it.
Yeah. And like I said, I think the biggest justice to not only the Howe family, but the Jones family is to just make sure and do the right thing in this situation. And again, man, I want to thank you so much for your time, man. Thank you. I can't thank you enough, not only for being a friend, but for being, John Marshall family, but for representing your friend, for representing, our community, for representing Oklahoma, for representing just fatherhood, for representing husbands. Let's not forget about that, because that's very important. But just so much, brother. Like I can easily say I look up to you. And I appreciate you so much. And again, guys, please make sure you go to Justice for Julius, which is JUSTICEFORJULIUS.com. And you could also watch the documentary there as well, because I've been wanting a more solid link to be able to send people to. So you can follow that. Please make sure you guys go to justiceforjulius.com. And again, Jimmy Lawson, man, you want to give your closing thoughts or anything else you want to say?
Yeah, man, I thank the public and everybody who's been supporting, man. We are highly appreciative of everybody's support. Thank you, DJ Just Day, for using your platform. It's a powerful platform, man. I encourage you to keep doing so. Even if the haters don't like it, you got to push through, my guy.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate your time, brother, and I look forward to seeing you, man.
All right, take care.
All right, peace. All right, guys, let me go ahead and close out this StreamYard. And again, man, thank you guys so much for the people who are listening right now. I'm gonna go ahead and close this recording out. Please, again, if you would, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the channel, the AFC, where we advocate for children first, but we also advocate for justice. We advocate for us doing the right thing, man, and the right thing is to bring Julius Jones home. But thank you guys so much for listening.